everybody, so new review for you guys today. We're talking about the latest adaptation to the famous novel, The Call of the Wild. So this is the latest film from 20th Century Studios, not 20th Century Fox anymore, so I'm gonna have to get used to saying that. But I've actually never read the novel that it's based on. I had heard of it before, and I've seen bits and pieces of different interpretations of the storyline in movies and TV adaptations over the years. But if there's like a certain version that you could recommend to me, definitely make sure you leave that in the comment section down below, because I'm gonna go back and rewatch some of those. So The Call of the Wild tells the story of a dog with a big heart named Buck, whose life is turned upside down once he's uprooted from his California home, taken to the Alaskan Yukon during the gold rush of the 1890s, experiencing adventures of a lifetime along the way, finding his true place in the world and becoming his own master. It was an interesting decision to actually make Buck a full CGI character in this interpretation, a costly one at that, because the budget for the film is $109 million. I mean, it kind of works. I mean, we've seen in recent years, specifically last year's The Lion King remake, that you can actually make these animals look really realistic nowadays. I wouldn't say it reaches that same level of realism, though, because there are moments where Buck looks stunningly realistic, and the other animals in the film as well, but many times they just don't get it completely 100% correct, and it becomes distracting, especially when they have these animals do crazy over-the-top things, like at one point, like the dog does like a full-on like wrestling body slam. Even if you can completely tell that he's not actually in any of the scenes, I do end up liking Buck a lot by the end of the movie. He's very lovable, very adorable, has some really great funny moments, especially with Harrison Ford. Speaking of Harrison Ford, though, I actually think he gave a really good performance. It's actually nice to see him on screen. This kind of role fits him perfectly as this crockety old man, but he slowly does bond with the dog over the course of the film, has some really fun adventure scenes, some really cute, lovable scenes, and that really works for him. It's nice to see him on screen once again. I'm not sure how I feel about the next Indiana Jones movie, but for the case of this movie, he was really good, and that's kind of like the only good human performance for the entire film, unfortunately. I don't know what the direction was for all of the other actors in the film. I mean, Harrison Ford seems like the only person that's kind of feels like a real person. Everybody else is just complete caricatures that are just over-the-top acting for no reason, and it's not even like the talent isn't there. You got Karen Gillan in a few scenes. She's not in it a whole lot, fortunately, in this case, and Dan Stevens, he's a fairly good actor, but this is just a horrible role for him. Poorly miscast. He is just hamming it up each time he's on screen. I mean, really bad acting, mustache twirling kind of antagonist that keeps popping up throughout the entire film, and pretty much every time he's on screen, it's horrible. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he was directed to act this way, but this is easily the worst I've ever seen Dan Stevens in any sort of project. Since I'm not very familiar with the source material of the book or even the other different adaptations, I don't know how much they vary between or if it's very accurate to the source material, but in the case of this movie, at least, I felt like the pacing of the story is very uneven for most of the runtime. I would say it kind of goes in and out of being fairly interesting, because there are moments that I did find myself really enjoying, like many of the interactions between Buck and Harrison Ford's character and the adventure they go on that doesn't actually take place for like at least 2/3 of the movie, and then there's obviously the scenes of Buck when he's a sled dog, but there's a lot of downtime in between all those scenes that are just kind of dull, and it kind of just left me wanting to have more adventure in this movie just based on what I assumed we were getting. So yeah, I definitely think there are moments in this film that are fairly enjoyable. Just seeing Harrison Ford on screen interacting with this very adorable CGI dog makes for some fun moments here and there. It's definitely a very mixed bag experience overall as a film, though. I don't think a lot of people are going to enjoy this. I think a lot of younger kids aren't really going to have that much fun with it. I think they'll actually get kind of bored through different stretches of the movie. I certainly feel if you're a dog lover, you're going to come out of this film liking it a little bit more if you didn't like dogs, just because leaving the film, like I said, it has some charming moments. You're going to go home and really appreciate your dog a little bit more, because I know I did. But those are just my thoughts on The Call of the Wild. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. What did you think of the film when you check it out? Did you like it? Did you not like it? And also, like I said earlier, what interpretation of this storyline from films, TV, film adaptations, which would you say is your favorite? Because it seems like there's a lot of different versions of this storyline put to film over the last 100 years or so. So I'm sure there's a favorite. Recommend them to me so I can check them out in the future. Thank you as always for checking out my reviews. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button if you want to keep up to date with my movie reviews, trailer reactions, unboxings, and more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.